Thomas Friedman has given advice to the big three automakers. By the way, he works for the New York Times. He said, quote, I would add other conditions to this bailout. Any car company that gets taxpayer money must demonstrate a plan for transforming every vehicle in its fleet to a hybrid electric engine with flex fuel capability so the entire fleet can also run on next-generation cellulosic ethanol. Okay, that's cool, Thomas. That's cool. You know what? There is a company out there. In addition to sedans, it's offering hybrid models. Even in the largest SUVs that the company is making. The company is also the industry's largest investor in cellulosic ethanol production. And every model it makes is flex fuel capable. You know what company that is, Thomas? General Motors. So, gee, Tom, looks like they're already doing that. Why would we be lecturing them on go green when they're trying to save their frickin' lives and they've already done it? What got GM and other car companies into this mess is unfunded government regulation where do-gooder wannabes forced the car companies to retool, but then didn't give them the money to do it. This doesn't even solve the problem, which are legacy costs, the costs of health care that unions demanded and obtained, the high wages and generous retirement packages because the unions jammed it down their throat. They had absolutely no way to go. They had no way out of it. And the damn Congress and president after president after president have sucked up to these unions as they have sucked the life out of American industry. Tom, you work for the New York Times. If you're going to give financial advice to anybody, you might want to think about giving it to the New York Times. After all, haven't they just been reduced to junk status? I believe that's true. You might want to look at the New York Times. And Tom, if you want to give some advice on the economy, you might want to look at some of the unions that I'm sure that they have there at the New York Times as well. Maybe some of the unions should retool for the future. The policy of the American government is to leave their citizens free, neither restraining nor aiding them in their pursuits. Thomas Jefferson. That ain't what our government is doing. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Where is it we're headed, guys? Where is it we're headed? Not to an America that I understand. I mean, we're headed towards an America that doesn't make any sense. But we're headed towards an America that's based on bait and switch. We're basing America. We're headed towards an America that screams and yells. Where was the federal regulation? Where was the oversight? And yet, today, quote, headline on Drudge, bailout lacks oversight, watchdog panel empty. They have spent and put us on the hook for $5 trillion. I mean, I don't think these numbers, do you remember when we were kids? There was million, then there was billion. I honestly thought trillion was a made-up word. When I was a kid, I thought trillion was a made-up word. Joe, can you just Google real quick? Is zillion a made-up word, or is that an actual number? Because trillion, zillion, I thought we were making those up. I had absolutely no idea that was not a real number.
Yeah, zillion is not a real number.
It's not. Do we know that was trillion a made-up number, back in 1972?
No, trillion is not one of those new technologies Barack Obama is always promising. That one is always existed.
I don't know. I mean, maybe Al Gore invented trillion. I'd believe that more than I believe the internet. So, these numbers mean nothing. Count 1 to 1,000,000. It'll take you 32 days. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take you 32 days without stopping to count to 1 to 1,000,000. Count 1 to 1,000,000,000. It will take you 32 years. Count 1 to 1,000,000,000,000, and it will take you 32,000 years. That should help get your arms around how much money we have just spent, unbeknownst to any of it. I mean, $138 billion have just been given to GE. $138 billion to GE. We're arguing about $50 billion to the big three, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, $50 billion for the automakers, and we're all arguing about it. Meanwhile, GE has been given $139 billion. $139 billion. Almost 3 times what the auto industry, and nobody is paying attention to it. How? They're going to tell us that you can't let the big three collapse. And I got news for you, gang. The collapse of the big three, it is bad. It really will mean 3 million jobs. 3 million jobs. That, by the way, that'll take you 96 days to count that. But what's the alternative? Is the alternative giving them $50 billion, which the government says, oh, that's going to do it, $50 billion. That'll help them. That'll save them. Really? AIG, wasn't it $80 billion would save AIG? Now it's $150 billion. Wasn't the $700 billion bailout package for all of the mortgages, wasn't that going to fix the problem? And now it's $5 trillion. Now, let me ask you this. Which makes more sense? Does it make more sense to give them $50 billion and then have the government buy into the automakers so the government has some clout, more than it already has with the automakers? Or does it make more sense to bite the bullet and to say, yeah, 3 million jobs, that is going to be ugly. I mean, ugly. But you know what? It'll give our automakers a chance to get out from underneath the $78 an hour wage. It will give them a chance to get out from underneath these incredible health care packages that they can't afford. That they can get out from underneath all of the baggage that has been put on their backs. Have somebody else step in and retool it. Those assets aren't going anywhere. You telling me, well, there won't be in this climate where the government will control everything. But if the government would get out of the way, you're telling me there's not an entrepreneur on planet Earth that wants the assets of General Motors, that doesn't think if they just went under and I didn't have to worry about all the bull crap that has been piled on their back for the last 50 years. I couldn't make a go of that. I couldn't build a car better. I couldn't build a car faster. And don't talk to me about being green. You want to be green? Great. Take that $50 billion and invest it into green technology. Why don't you just give it to a Tesla, the car manufacturer that all they make is electric vehicles? Because you know we're not that close. You know that this technology cannot be replaced. I just wonder when someone is going to stand up in Washington and say the kind of things that you've been saying around your kitchen table for an awful long time.